Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I get to talk with Sam Grinberg. Fun fact, I first met Sam when he was my TA for a class at UCLA. He was getting his MFA in animation. Sam currently works as a character designer on The Simpsons, while also working on many other illustration and comic projects. His art spans from characters on TV to murals in the streets. Sam's art is truly amazing. Go to his Instagram to check out more of his work and listen in to learn more about his story and creative process. How are you, Sam?
Good. How about you?
Good. So you are an amazing cartoonist and you do illustrations and you've done comics for so many things and you are a character designer on The Simpsons, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Tell me a bit about your journey so far. Like how did you decide to become a cartoonist and what was your process so far into becoming that?
I was always drawing, since
Mhm.
I was like a little kid, and it just seems like the norm. Like I guess like if you're like you watch movies and you want to act, you just like realize like, oh, I'm gonna act one day or something or make movies, and like I just was drawing, and like it just seemed like the natural progression, like drawing through middle school and then high school, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna do this. Like I guess I was also like I didn't have any sort of like idea of like, oh, if that doesn't work out, because I didn't think of it as like a job, it's almost like a hobby you just do. Like I just was always drawing, and it's like, oh, I'll just keep doing this and hopefully I'll make money. I actually didn't think about money at all. Like I just thought like I'm just gonna keep drawing and I'm just gonna be a cartoonist. That's what it's called for the people who like to draw, So
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you know anyone that did anything close to this or what was
no, I mean like I'm from New Jersey, and I was like basically the only person who drew in the school. There was like a few other kids, but like, and it was a big school too. I shouldn't say the school. I should say my grade. I didn't really. I had a few friends when I was like in middle school who drew with me for fun, but I didn't really know anyone professionally. My dad used to have a comic book store, so maybe that's why I'm interested in it. But it's funny because I never read superhero or interested in superhero comics. I mainly liked cartoons and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, no, nobody like professionally until I then started going to like Comic Cons and stuff in New York, where I would meet artists that I liked. But that was only like hi and then walk away, like very shy. But not till I moved out here, honestly. Or no, actually, I shouldn't say that. Not till I went to college in New York that I started to meet professionals who were my teachers. But before that, like nobody.
So that's amazing. So you've always been drawing. Wow, that's really amazing. It's so natural for you.
I had to learn, but
yeah, no, I know, of course, but there was definitely. It seems like you have a natural. There's definitely like an innate thing that was there to start with.
I think so. Yeah.
So did you go to college to study? Like, what did you study in undergrad?
Actually, the major was cartooning.
Okay.
Like, I went to the School of Visual Arts, and you could have taken cartooning, illustration, or animation. And animation, like I was always interested in animation. That's what I ended up studying at UCLA. But I really wanted to, like, because I was always drawing comics and stuff, and illustration was if you really want to do editorial illustration or like children's books and stuff. And there's a lot of like bleed over, and you could take some of the same classes. But if you want to be like a cartoonist, they would say, like to learn about sequential art and how to make a comic and stuff, then you majored in cartooning. So that's what really attracted me to that, and that's what I studied there. Even though I did take a few other classes in other majors and stuff.
Can you specify? I know you kind of have gone into it, but the differences between cartooning, illustration, and animation a little bit.
Well, again, like you could definitely be all three if you want, depending on what you do. Because like the umbrella is you're an artist, so like if you draw a comic, well, I don't know, it's kind of like in the major at least, all the classes were just about comics. So like at my school, which is the School of Visual Arts, like the cartooning major was learning comics, and it doesn't not necessarily like Marvel or DC. In fact, like most of the kids didn't want to do that when I was there. Some did, but if you were in an illustration department, if you're an illustrator, they do plenty of comics as well now. But like in the school, at least from what I remember, it was mainly really studying because like if you open the New Yorker or any magazine, there's a lot of spot illustrations and editorial illustrations. Or if you want to do children's books or children's book illustrations, or even it could bleed into advertising potentially.
Okay, I can see that.
But that's not really what was focused in the cartoon department, even though you could pick up those skills if you want. And then animation, they really studied like the principles of animation, like how to make things move and like the rules of animation, which is like and storyboarding is something that they were. So that was really more in film than mine. Cartooning was really just about paper.
Like the image, like without the component that it's going to be moving, like brought.
Yeah, okay. Not at all.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And then you went to UCLA for an MFA in animation, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's because after I graduated, I didn't really know what I was going to do because like it was tons of fun and I learned so much there, like a lot. Like the teachers were incredible, but I didn't really have like a plan or anything. Like I said, goes back to like before. Like I was just like, I'm just gonna draw and something will happen. Like nothing really was happening, and I always still wanted to like I love making comics and I still do, but I still wanted to like one day have a show and work in animation. So I realized like I really didn't learn anything about the animation industry or it at all at school because it wasn't my major. I took one class. And then I applied to UCLA because I thought this isn't a rule, but it would be a lot easier if I was in California to get into that industry, whether trying to get into it in New York, which I did. I was interned at an animation studio in Brooklyn briefly. But then I'm sure that helped on my resume applying to UCLA. But then once I got here, that's when I really was like into the animation world. Luckily, I had all that cartooning education with me.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. Can you tell me what is your process like when designing a character or how I know it differs depending on the project and you work on so many things, but kind of like if you could break down like what is the process kind of like for someone who doesn't know this at all?
I guess like you said, it's different for everything. If it's myself, like totally my own project or something, or like my own comic, I literally just like, I don't know, it's funny, I don't really sit and think like, okay, I'm going to design a character, this is for my own stuff. I just have tons of sketchbooks and I'm just always like drawing weird things in them and ideas, and they kind of evolve naturally. Like if a character I think is weird comes up, then it's like there permanently, so I can always go back if there's a story I want to tell and be like, oh yeah, there's that guy. And usually a story can form around a weird character. That's totally different from like if you're working for a studio, like you'll get a description from the writer and they'll want a character to look like this. And you have to not only draw on their style, but meet their requirements for what it has to look like. So.
Yeah. Wow, it's really amazing what you do. So working on The Simpsons, how did you start working there? What was it like jumping into this show that's been running for years? Also, the process of the collaboration, like the writer gives you a description of what they need in this character, and just like how that whole process works.
Yeah,
so it's like a few questions in there.
No, it's fine. Well, at UCLA, one of the teachers there used to be a director on The Simpsons in the animation department, and I'm such a huge fan of the show. I was asking him if I can get an internship, and I asked a few times, and he's super busy, and finally he gave me the info, and I got to intern there. And when you're an intern, you're you can't do any artwork. It's not that kind of internship. It's for credit, and it's only the production side of things. So I worked in as an intern, and then I got hired as a production assistant for a year, and then production coordinator for a year. And basically those are just, you're managing a lot of the digital artwork. It used to be paper, not while I was there, but anyway, that, and then eventually I kept I always wanted to be an artist there, so I was practicing my character designs and their style and stuff, and getting notes, and over the course of like a year or so, I would just pass it around to directors and like keep revising, and eventually they hired me as a freelance artist to like see how I would do, and I was working freelance for like I think a year. After work, I would work like the coordinator job and then freelance at night. Not like another 40-hour week, but probably about like, I don't know, 10 hours, 10 to 16, depending on. Anyway, and then eventually they hired me full time, which I was super happy about. And coming into the show after it's been running for so many years was fine. It's weird because like a lot of my other friends and stuff like hop from show to show and stuff, but this is like a show that's always running, and they had such a what's the word? Like the pipeline is so ingrained in how they do things there that it's so like there's not really any confusion. Like they know how things are running, so there's no like there was no learning curve. Like I can get in and like being there as an intern, like I could pick up on how things were going very quickly. And that's why I think it made it easier for me to jump into the art side, because like I was in the production side and I could see how things were running.
Yeah.
And what was the last question?
That's amazing. I guess so. Then the second part of that was, so you're not. It's much more collaborative, I would imagine, in a studio setting than like working on your own, or like if someone commissioned you to do something. So what is that process like? Like, what's the day-to-day, and are you like designing and then taking it back to them and they're like, well, I think he looks a little more like this, and then you're trying again?
Yeah. Just like that show, and I have freelanced on some other shows now, and actually for the first time, maybe almost a year ago, because I was really just on that show, and I was curious about what another show would be like, and basically they're all the same. Like you get there's a script, there's a description of the character most of the times, unless sometimes it's just like you can work with the director and figure something out. But yeah, like on that show and other shows, like you get it and you do a pass, you turn it in. The director, if there's an art director or a regular director on the show, they'll look over it, they'll make their changes or notes, or if they don't, it usually gets passed to the writers, and the writers look at it and they make their notes, and it would go back to you, and you work with the director again to tweak it, and then hopefully on that next try it is approved, and then you can move forward.
Okay, and then when you move forward, is that like, okay, this character's set, and then like what's your involvement from there? How does...
Then it's just done. Then you move on to like a new design, because usually you have a list of like a bunch of different characters. I mean, depending on the show, you'll go back and clean up your own design. Some shows give those designs to other artists or cleanup artists who
I see.
clean up your rough designs. But they're still not sketchy. They're still pretty clean looking, but like in order for color to like fill in the design, it has to be a very clean line, if anyone knows Photoshop, because if there's broken lines, then it becomes a whole error. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that's how that works.
So are the descriptions that you're getting, are they things that are about like physical characteristics mainly, or are they also like or are they more like the character's personality and behavior, and you're coming up with like what would this person look like?
It could be anything really.
Okay.
It really depends on like it depends on the character, how important the character is, the background character. Sometimes it's free for all. Like it really is. It's different even on this show or any other show. Mainly for the most part, it's depending on what, like if there's a new main character, they're probably going to want very specific notes on it. They'll tell you what they want. But if they need a crowd of characters in the background, like an audience isn't really going to even notice them. They're just going to like unconsciously see there's a crowd. So you kind of can make up whatever you want.
Yeah.
As long as it's not distracting, because you don't want it to take away
yeah, like some weird crazy just like in the corner.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What are your favorite characters to kind of work on? Like how would you describe your style is? Like what's your favorite?
I don't know. It depends. Like if I'm drawing for myself, I just come up with kind of anything that's interesting. Like if I have like a bunch of saved folders on my desktop with like tons of different references. Like I'm always going through Instagram and saving things that I think are funny or like interesting illustrations or things that inspire me, and then I'll look at those and just come up with my own characters or anything. But on shows, it's completely different because there, like I said, you kind of do what they say. But for myself, yeah, I don't know. I never really, it's weird. I never really think about it, you know, it is so like, I'm just drawn. I mean, I guess I do think about it a little, but unconsciously. I don't know if I tell myself, like, this is what it should be. Unless maybe if I am working on something, yeah, actually now I'm thinking like, yeah, if I'm doing like a project in my own style as a commission, like for a flyer or something, then I think about it, like how am I going to translate what this person wants into my own style, and that's fun because it's like taking someone else's idea and I get to draw it how I want to draw it, you know?
That's really cool. You have commissioned, like I think like tons of stuff, but I saw one thing in particular that it's in Burbank, and I think it was commissioned by Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah, you saw it?
Yeah, I saw online. I haven't seen it, yeah, because I haven't been there like recently, but
right.
That's amazing. So what's that, how do you decide, like, how do you work on something like that, where it's going to be physically on this thing, and you're, like, figuring out, how do I want this to look? And how collaborative is it? Is it, like, we just want you to do this here, and it's in your hands? Or is it, like, we think, like, how does that work?
Well, for that in particular, they're, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but, like, there all those utility boxes around LA. Have you seen, like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And, like, Burbank put out a call for people to paint on them, and I just submitted a design. I think there was a theme. It was for what Burbank. I can't remember exactly, but it was something like what Burbank means to you or something like that. So the one I did was like all the animation studios in Burbank, like some fantasy magic land, because I thought they were so magical when I was a kid. But that was collaborative because I had like my girlfriend and a lot of friends like help me paint it, because I wouldn't have been able to do that by myself, because it was like a lot of work, and I don't paint at all, so and then the heat, that's all coming back to me. But yeah, it was.
That is so cool, though. Wait, so you designed the whole thing before, and then you guys physically went there and like painted it?
Yeah.
Like that's how it works? Okay.
I drew it digitally, that thing, because they provided a template with the 4 sides. And then I went there, and you had to like paint it white, and then I could sketch with pencil what I wanted, and go over and paint it, and then put a sealant on it. And across the street from that, now there's a store where I put up like a huge banner that was a collaborative effort with me, a friend of mine, and my girlfriend, where we all drew different characters, and that's now up there, which is really fun too.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of that too. Yeah, that's amazing. That is so cool. Like, I just feel like people don't realize the work that goes into things that are like around us, you know? Like it's just amazing.
That was part of the thing too. Actually, you reminded me when they were talking about the call for art, where they're like, they wanted you to write like a paragraph on why public art is important. And I also I have so many pictures on my phone of murals I see and everything, but I never really sat down to think like, okay, now it's time to explain why it's important. And that was interesting, because you just said the same thing. Like, it is, even at the time, I didn't think about, like, it is important.
Yeah. You've worked on such cool things. What's one of your favorite things that you've worked on?
Well, honestly, that huge banner, I want to say, is maybe because it's so new, but I've never made something so big before.
How big is it? And like when
I think that's like 10 by 20 feet.
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
Like huge. And that is like probably one of my favorites. The only bummer about it is, not bummer, I mean, the whole reason we did it is because it's to support local business during this time, because businesses are suffering. It's a little late now, because we actually were doing it last summer, but it got tied up. But once the mask mandate goes away, maybe whoever who knows when that will be. I assume the banner will come down because everyone has masks
Well,
on it. So.
I don't know, maybe not. It definitely would be like an homage to that time, and it's still
That's
like
true.
a beautiful thing to remember, like to be grateful now that we don't have the mask. Like this is what it was not long ago, you know?
Yeah, let's go
But
with that.
I guess
That's
we'll
good.
see. You should talk to me, I'll explain. How long does something like that take you to design? Like the whole thought process of like, okay, what do I want up there? Like you know the mission behind it, but how do you decide? Like, how long does it take?
That one, well, we had 3 artists working on that, and that was a long time just because we were figuring out the concept for a while, and that takes. I feel like most of the work is coming up with the idea and like sketching out a composition that works, because that's like, how do we make it look nice, and the actual drawing of it goes by pretty fast because that's like the fun part. But like really coming up with everything and planning it took, I don't know how long really, but I know that definitely took maybe 3 months or something like that, just from start to finish, maybe longer. But yeah, it's really just like anything, honestly. The conceptualizing part is the longest.
Yeah, like writing, I feel like, like like a lot of the time is all the stuff before you're actually writing it, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, I guess a lot of creative things work like that. That's so cool though. But like trying to envision something so big seems just very like, how do you do that in your head, you know? Like to really plan, because all of it's covered with, all of it has like, is a story. Every piece of it, you know?
Well, it's a little easier when you have 2 other people
so did you guys
fill it in with you.
Yeah, so when you're working with 2 other people like that, are you deciding together the overall thing, or are you like breaking up? You're not breaking up like sections, right? Or are you?
I mean, like, I don't know. It really was like, do whatever you want with that, because it wasn't commissioned necessarily. We kind of just did it in sort of talks with someone, and so we kind of didn't have any rules. So like, I kind of drew over here, and like someone else drew over there, and it kind of was like a whole big mix.
Do you prefer working? This is probably do you prefer working with someone on something or on your own? Or that's like a hard thing to answer. Like, what are the?
Yeah, I think both. Honestly.
Both? Okay.
Yeah, because I don't, because they're different. Because the projects for me are for me, and then the ones I work with someone else are for someone else. So I like separate them, you know.
Yeah, and it's also and it's also like, there's always a thing when you're working with someone else of like getting, making sure you guys all have the same vision, you know, like, are we on the same page with this thing, versus when it's you, it's just you, like you can make it up.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna ask you just a few random fun questions, okay?
Sure.
So, if you were a professional athlete, what sport would you do?
Oh my, I literally have never thought about that. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of like the most, like, does ping pong count?
Ping pong? Yeah, why not? That's.
I don't know.
Do you like ping pong, or you just ran? Or you just?
No. It's okay. It's okay. I was just thinking of something that's not like like violent.
That's
a lot
funny.
Of energy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's a sound that you really like?
I didn't prepare for these tough ones.
I just want to. Yeah.
I don't know. I have to like think about it. What do I?
People have sounds that they. Do you want to? What about what's a sound that you don't like?
I guess the standard answer of like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah.
Now I'm gonna think, what sound do I like? I don't know.
Like, I love the sound of water.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, but I also feel like that's like, doesn't everyone?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I was trying to think of like a unique one that I specifically like, which I'm sure there is one, but it'll come to me like tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, it's okay. Okay, and then is there anything that you do to be in the now?
Honestly, I know it sounds like a weird one because all we talked about was that, but basically, like drawing every day, because like it's almost like if you were writing every day, you're present, right? Because you're doing it. Because it's when I go like even like a few days without drawing, I feel like it's been months. Like I'm so behind and like I'm not like current, you know.
Yeah.
So like feeling current and like the now for me would be doing that every day in some form. I would say more so for myself because even though I'm drawing every day for a job, even if I have a freelance job, like that does make me feel current or in the now because it's for a current show. But because it's not like my identity necessarily, it's only when I'm really drawing for myself, and it's the only which I try to do every day, even though there are some days I don't.
Yeah, I love that. You really love drawing and you do it completely just like freely without any reason to every day, like almost every day. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
if this was over the phone and not recorded, I'd be doodling just the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool. And also I imagine that's how it was as a kid, like starting out, and you've kept that. It feels like it's the same essentially.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The only difference is that now, when I was a kid, I didn't have like social media, so like showing your parents is the closest thing to getting people to see it. But now it's more. There's even more incentive to finish something because I would always be doodling, but now it's like, oh, making a finished piece is nice. You can show it to people who hopefully like it.
Yeah. What do you think of social media in general as a cartoonist? Like, do you leverage that a lot? Oh, I know that you do because your Instagram's amazing. But is it something that like you recommend?
Yeah, definitely. Because like, why not, right? Like, it's like the more people who can see what you do, the better. Unfortunately, it's like if you're a musician or a writer, you can't really share in the. Oh, I guess you can for Twitter and stuff, and even on Spotify, but you can't. It's not. People don't use that as frequently as you can just look at someone's artwork online. So I think it's like amazing, Like, why not take advantage of it? And actually, even in college, I'm probably not the first year to do this, but I was a freshman in 2013, and in undergrad, and there were classes like where you had to like make social media and a website. Like they really wanted you to like build a brand because they know even the school knew how important that was.
Yeah, that's so good. And also, it's like it works out really well because it's a visual medium, and Instagram and all of these things are visual primarily, So that's
definitely.
really cool. What advice do you have for someone who wants to get into what you're doing?
Probably to always keep drawing, even though it's really hard sometimes, and you're not inspired, or you feel like you're not in the mood or anything. But like a lot of the times, when I force myself to, I'll come up with something I never would have thought I would have if I didn't, And I think the more you work and the harder you work goes further than if you're super talented. Because I know almost everyone, not almost, everyone I know around me, I feel like is more talented. And I feel like the only way for me to keep up is to keep drawing and keep going. And even like in college, I remember teachers saying like the ones who never stop or will get a job. But even if you're super talented, you gotta keep doing it. So I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's great, and that's applicable to I think everything,
right?
Really. Yeah, which is great. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.